after 11 years of wanting to and becoming a teacher, I quit. So starting in freshman year, I started doing a lot of volunteer or working in classrooms. So I had a lot of exposure to classroom experience, and of course, having my mom be a teacher also helped in kind of having that exposure. And I was a sophomore in high school that I was working with a child during summer school, and I helped him figure out subtraction. It's quite difficult behavioral child, but I was able to help him. And when he had the eureka moment, that I was like, that sparked a passion in me, and I was like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life, for as many kids as possible. So that is when I started going in the trajectory of becoming an early childhood teacher. Fast forward through high school, I did like field seminars, I was working in summer school, I was working in a Korean language school. I had a lot of classroom experience, and I was just indulging in it because I loved it. I absolutely loved teaching and working with kids. Go into college, I love learning the material, the theories, just being in the classroom and having a teacher mentor to kind of like give me pointers. I loved it. I graduated college in 2019 believing that this was my calling and this is my life work. First year rolls around. As a teacher, I am smacked with a wall of reality. First of all, my first year of teaching, I also finally moved out of my parents' home and I was living on my own, so no roommates. I bought my first car, so I had car payments and car insurance I never used to have to worry about. And then on top of that, I had a taste of what it's like to live on a teacher's salary. If you have not experienced that, it is interesting because teacher work is very demanding, and I'm sure you've heard from some way or another, maybe you have a teacher friend or maybe you've heard articles, especially over the course of the pandemic, that being a teacher is really hard. It's a lot of work, it's a lot of prep work, that's done at home that's not accounted for in the salary, and it's not balanced out by the financial compensation. So it was really hard, it was really tough, but mind you, it was my first year, so I still had that first teacher passion that just had pummeled through it. And actually my first year teaching was when COVID hit, so I actually never got to have a full school year with one class, which was really sad, but you know, it is what it is. The first year, I developed anxiety for the first time in my life. I could not go to sleep without my heart palpitating so hard that I felt like my chest was gonna burst. I've never experienced that in my life, but I developed that from my first year of teaching. But it was still rewarding. It was still rewarding, and I love seeing the kids grow. I was working with older 3-year-olds who all eventually turned 4 by the time they moved on from my class. And so it was amazing to see their progress and their growth, and the families that I was with, I was blessed with great families, and they treated me very well, and they, you know, gave me positive affirmations all the time. They loved me, I loved them, it was great. But it was still just a lot of work and it tired me out. But I went straight through summer doing summer school as well, and I probably shouldn't have because I was semi-burnt out by the start of the second year. Second year rolls around, I have a child with special needs, and you know, every day throwing tantrums, and it's really hard for me because I felt like I was not properly trained and properly educated from my college education to work with students like this in a typical classroom. And it was a lot. There's a lot of dynamic personalities within my classroom, and then having a special needs student on top of that, I just felt like I was not supported enough. I felt like I was not prepared enough, and it just drained me drastically and exponentially my second year. I actually ended up going to a different school several months into that school year because I just felt like I couldn't live off of the teacher salary, because at this point I had moved back home because I couldn't live on my own. And I was like, look, I love doing the work that I do, but I need to be supported with a good support system of teachers. And I also feel like I need a raise because I can't live on the teacher salary I was at, the starting teacher salary. And so then I went to another school, which was great. The co-teacher that I worked with was actually one of my teacher mentors when I was back in college, so it was great. I loved it. Then our class merged with another class whose teacher left because of maternity leave, which is very common in the early childhood world. When that class came into our classroom, because it was very different discipline level and just a lot of behavioral issues that were not addressed in the previous classroom, it was really hard. And it was just like wow, this is insane. And it drained me. I think I was probably at my lowest physical weight that summer in my 20s because it was just so stressful. I wasn't getting enough sleep. Overall, outside of work, I felt very miserable, very stressed, very kind of overwhelmed. I loved working with the people and I loved the kids, but certain kids just drew out a type of energy from me that I didn't know I had, and it was very draining, and it was not good. It was not a good experience. Before going into my third year, I ended up moving to a different state, so that was another transition to deal with. But the center that I ended up working at was just so horribly disorganized and poorly managed. Corporate-owned schools or centers usually have lower quality teachers and organization because there's just so many to manage at the same time that a lot of things kind of go, unseen. And I experienced that kind of center for my third year, and I was just like, wow, I cannot do this anymore. The level of discipline and structure was just all over the place because I hadn't started with this group of kids. I was their third teacher at this point. Only like 2 months into the school year, they were already on the third teacher, which is a red flag, but I didn't see that red flag. But it was just really hard because the management was not very on top of things. There were a lot of legal rules that they didn't really enforce a lot, like ratio, teacher to student ratio. And I know that there's a lot of shortage in teachers, especially just like because of the pandemic, but it's still a legal thing, and there's a reason why it's a legal thing, because it's very incredibly hard to manage a classroom of over 20 children with just one teacher, especially at a younger age. But they weren't really enforcing that, and so that put a lot of pressure on me, because it's like, if something were to happen while we're out of ratio, I could get in trouble, and I'll be the one responsible for that because I was the one in charge. And it just really stressed me out, and overall it was just not a good experience. And then I found out just the history of the company and their management in other locations as well, and it was like the tipping point of how children were not even safe in the environment because of poor management and lack of enforcement of the rules. And I was not comfortable with that, so then I ended up quitting, and that was when I was just like reevaluating my teacher career. Within the first year, but I feel like that's accounting my first year teacher passion, I was pretty miserable. Overall, my life was pretty miserable. I was not getting paid enough. I was being drained from work. I was not necessarily enjoying it as much as I used to from my first year, and especially my third year, I was not enjoying it. Like maybe a little bit, like once in a while I might, but it wasn't like I enjoyed my job, I enjoyed my career. It was nothing like that. And so because of that, I was like, you know what? I need to go a different route, because with the help of my boyfriend, who kind of enlightened me, was like, there are different ways to be a teacher. You don't have to be a teacher in a classroom. So he suggested tutoring, or, gave examples of people that he personally knew who were life coaches, whose degree was education. So he could technically have been a teacher, which he still technically is, but he is a life coach instead. So I started exploring those options, and I settled on trying to be a tutor while I finished my master's degree, which I started to continue being a teacher in the classroom. So we'll see how that degree goes. I started being a tutor, and I realized it's the same thing. You get the same rewarding feeling where you feel like you are helping a student. But it's even more so because tutoring is usually voluntary, and it's voluntary extra help. So it just felt a lot more personal, a lot more rewarding, and I got to spend a lot more time focusing on one student at a time. And my schedule became a little bit more flexible. I got to choose my schedule, and overall it was much better gig. And so that's what I'm currently doing now, and I couldn't be happier. I'm tutoring currently and taking my graduate courses. We'll see where it goes. Maybe I'll continue tutoring, maybe create a tutoring company. I don't know. But I just want to make this video to show other teachers who might be struggling with deciding whether to quit or not. It's like, you don't have to quit teaching. If the issue was just like the financial compensation and like the mental health thing, where you feel so overwhelmed with work and stress because of the structure of the school, I would try different schools. I mean, I tried 3, but I felt like that was still not the right format for me. And if that's the case for you as well, just know that there are other options. You can be a tutor, you can be an international school teacher. So for me, I'm pretty satisfied with being a tutor and being a student at the same time. And my boyfriend as well as my friends have said that they've noticed that I seem so much just so much happier and a lot more laid back, and I feel that way as well. So for those of you who are teachers who are kind of struggling in between, like, wow, my first year sucked, let me try it again and again and again, I just feel like nothing is satisfying me, consider going to different schools. Consider advocating for yourself for a higher pay. Just know your value as a teacher and what you provide, and how that would translate into the financial compensation value. Also know that there are other ways to teach. So yeah, I hope this video was slightly helpful, insightful. I don't know. I wanted to be encouraging for other teachers who are in a similar spot as me. I was very miserable. I was very stressed. I was not healthy. There's just a lot of issues going on because it turns out because I was just teaching in the wrong way, in the wrong format. So I hope that helps. If you have any other questions for maybe your specific situation that I could be of help to kind of give you advice, drop a comment below. If you like this video and it gave you kind of insight to what teachers kind of go through, go ahead and like and subscribe for more of this kind of content. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!